Hey, Successfuls, Jolene here. Are you a super fan or are you just a casual fan? Of what? I don't know. That's up to you. Today we're talking about Superfans by Pat Flynn.
This is the Success Through Community podcast. Okay, I'm just going to dive straight into this one. No pleasantries this time because I am so excited to talk about this book. I can't even really put into words why it hit me so hard, but it really did. So this book is called Superfans. It's by Pat Flynn. And
Okay.
I think one of the things that really helped, and I get the impression that he does this for all of his books, and if that's true, he's kind of a genius, but
Wait, can I stop you real quick here?
yeah.
Uh, am I wrong on thinking on who Pat Flynn is? Is he that little guy that hangs out with Tony Robbins?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to Google him later. Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean,
could be.
he might hang out with Tony Robbins, but his whole thing, his podcast is the Smart Passive Income podcast. One of his first books was called Will It Fly?
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's very possible that he hangs out with Tony Robbins, but I wouldn't put him in the shadow of Tony Robbins. In fact,
Ah.
personally, like, I appreciate his message more than Tony Robbins, and I've seen Tony
And
Robbins live, so
I
yeah.
think I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong. He's
You
probably
might not
somebody
be.
that
I mean, there may have been a time where he was associated with, and he may still be associated with, but he never mentioned him at all.
Oh,
So, yeah, I don't know,
I
but
like him already.
I guess I guess you're gonna have to look him up and find out. So there's a couple things. So the first thing being that he creates companion courses, free courses to go along with his books.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
to an extent, like he just kind of did a book report for me a little bit, which is fantastic. But he also, there are certain chapters where there are exercises or resources that come along with it. Yeah, I really liked that aspect of it because it, even though I listened to the audiobook, it really helped me connect with the content so much better than most audiobooks.
Hmm.
So, really smart on his part. Another thing that was cool and why I'm already planning for next season to do another one of his books, but also the audiobook, is that while he's reading the book, he literally sidebars. So, like, if you listen to the audiobook, you get more from him than if you read the book.
I like
And
that.
I love that, and I love the way that he does it in such a casual way. Like, he'll tell you flat out, that, like, he's stepping away from the written book and saying something and then, "Okay, now back to the book," kinda thing.
Hmm.
But it's I mean, I think a lot of it comes from him being a podcaster, right? It just feels like you're getting this more direct coaching from him as opposed to reading the same book that millions of other people are reading.
I
Even
like
though
that.
you're reading a book that millions of other people are reading, you know what I mean? But it's just the way he's done it is just very smart, and it's why I think I connected so deeply with his content and his topic because his whole focus is on creating exactly what it's called, superfans, right? And
Right.
that doesn't mean, like, he does touch on towards the end of the book, like, the dark side of super fandom. So he does talk about, like, keeping yourself and your family safe in this pursuit
No
because
baby reindeer.
yeah, I mean, because it could go very wrong, right? So you do have to be careful about stuff. And he even talked about specifically times where he accidentally left himself open to something that could have been dangerous, and he got lucky that super fans who actually are nice, normal people, like, warned him so that he could protect himself, right? So it is, it is still important to remember that you need to be very careful about how you put yourself out there and all of that. So I'm going to put that disclaimer here at the beginning of this episode because I feel like that's very important, especially as women, to put out there.
Mm. Yeah.
that, I mean, it's bad enough, dangerous enough for him to accidentally make a mistake that might give away his location or whatever, which, we might feel like, well, that's silly. Like, who's going to care? But someday someone might care. And
Yeah.
you need to be very careful about that. But his focus so much, and one of the quotes that I'm sure is going to show up on our socials this week is basically he's saying that business is no longer about B2B and B2C. It's about P2P, the person to person relationship,
Mm-hmm.
which
I agree.
clearly tracks with how we feel about our
Yeah.
businesses, right?
Yeah.
But he gives such a great guide for not only how to do what we naturally feel and want to do, but also how to scale it. Because it's easy to think about how to give a lot of attention to your fans or your audience when there's only a handful of people, but as that gets bigger and bigger, you can't keep up with that, even if you're not trying to work a 4-hour work week. So
Hmm.
I think that it's important to have that aspect of that address, and he really, really does. So the way he does his audiobook is clearly like a page out of what he's talking about in the audiobook, because he makes you feel special in the way that you're listening, in the way that you feel like he's talking straight to you when he's totally not. And he's done that so effortlessly, and I think it's really cool to see, and definitely something that I strive to be like.
So, let me just get something clear here.
Mhm.
You are now officially a super fan?
I would not say I'm a super fan. I would still, and I will define all of this the way that he did. I would still
Yeah.
call myself a casual fan, and
Okay.
and you'll understand why when I give you the definitions that he's referring to. But
Fantastic.
so the way that we're often told to look at our pipeline, let's just call it a pipeline, our leads, our sales, all of that. We're told to
Yeah.
look at it as a funnel, right? I mean, we hear that everywhere. The sales funnel, everything comes in at the top, and that's where it's the widest, and then it comes down to the point at the bottom, and that's where your purchases happen, right?
Yes.
He flips it completely upside down. And instead of looking at it
Ooh,
as
I like that.
a
Yeah.
sales funnel, he looks at it, he calls it the pyramid of fandom. So
Okay.
so the bottom level of his, and as I'm looking at this again, I might actually upgrade myself to active. So we'll get there. But the bottom level of this pyramid of fandom are the casual fans. Okay. These are people who find you very much on accident. They don't find you because they know about you. They don't find your content because they're following you. They just come across it. So like from a Google search or a search on YouTube, and then they happen across one of your videos kind of thing. Okay.
Right.
Maybe they were referred by somebody else, but even that might take them a level closer to super fandom than like a true casual fan who kind of found you on accident. And they're still not sure about you. So these are people who you're still kind of winning over, right?
Okay.
By being yourself. I mean, you're not supposed to do anything different in order to try to win them over, but like they're still at the level where they're just like, yeah, okay. I mean, I like what you said here, but like I'm not buying into everything that you say and do just because it's you, right?
Yeah.
Then the next level up, of course, that's going to be where most of your people are. But the reason that he flips it upside down is because that's like the foundation, right? If you don't start with the foundation of that and the ability for people to find you that way, then none of the rest of this is possible. So
Okay.
the next level up is active fans. And these are people who know who you are. They're following you probably on multiple channels. They are, actively looking for your content. They're
Mhm.
looking for what you offer. They're probably on your email list, right? And they still require convincing to purchase. They're not someone who's just going to buy whatever you put out there, but they're more sure that you're their people, right? They
Makes
believe that
sense.
a little bit more. And then the next level up are the connected fans. And these are the people
Okay.
who are part of your community. They interact with you. They comment on your posts. They communicate with other people within your community, and they have connected in that way. They've plugged in, right?
Okay.
These people are less likely to require convincing. They're more likely to be interested in something that you're offering just because you're the one offering it. But they still want to know what it is first, right? And that's like, I mean, it's not the top, but that's like having a core group of people there is a really important key, right? That's what gets that engagement naturally flowing on social media. It's what keeps you from having to try so hard to get that kind of conversation going publicly. And then the last level is the super fans. And like these are the people who literally buy your things before you've even launched them. Like he even mentioned talking about somebody who knew that he was working on a new book. I don't know if it was Superfans or one of his earlier books, but they knew his other stuff. They were super fans. They knew he had a new book coming out. They didn't even know what it was about. And yet they literally emailed him their credit card, not recommending that, and neither is he. But they emailed him their credit card number and said, as soon as this book is available, put me down for 10 of them. I want to give them to all my people. Didn't even know what the
Wow.
book was about. Okay. That is a true super fan.
That makes me think of Apple and Mac users,
Yes. Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
they will not even
They don't
consider
even need to
anything
know
else.
something new
Yeah,
is coming out. I need it.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, and you don't even have to have that many of these people. Like his goal is not to like get to the point where you have people who will buy all of your stuff sight unseen. Like that's not really his point. He's just using that as an example to explain their level of belief in you,
Station. Yeah.
trust in what you're putting out there and that sort of thing. And then literally the entire book, except for the very end where he talks about the dark side, is teaching you how to guide people from one level of fandom to the next, to the next, to the next, with the understanding that not everyone is meant to reach super fandom or even connected fandom. Like you're not trying to force people through. You're just
Now,
trying to connect with them in a way that they can naturally make that progression if you are right for them, if that makes sense.
I have a question. When was this book? What was the publication date? Do you know?
I don't know, but I will look it up if you give me a moment.
Yeah. So, because my question is, and I'm sure you're going to dive into it, when he tells you how to take your audience from, you know, casual to not knowing who you are to casual to active to uh, super fandom, like through the levels, is it, please tell me it's more than just social media and
Oh
putting
yeah,
your personal life out there and all of that.
100%. 100%.
Oh, goody. Okay.
Um
I'm in.
yeah, okay, it looks like it came out in 2019.
Oh, wow. Okay. And he doesn't tote the whole, he, only social media.
No,
That's
no, no,
amazing.
no. No. Not
Oh,
at all.
wow.
And honestly, he talks about how important it is not to put more of your personal life out there than you feel comfortable with.
Love
Like
it.
he's not about that really at all. I mean, there are cases in which it might matter and might be helpful, but it's not about like exposing your entire life to everyone in order to make them feel like they know you. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
false. That's false fandom, right? They
Yeah.
don't really know you. You're that and honestly, you're more likely in a situation like that, I would think, to create the dark kind of super fan because now they
I
do
can't
feel
wait to
like they
hear
know
what
you,
they are. I
right?
can't wait to hear more about this dark side. I'm just true
Well, I
crime
mean,
junkie waiting to happen.
no, no, no. I mean, he didn't give like he didn't give specifics like stories like that. He's just talking about like well, we'll get to I'll get to that. I'll get to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cuz there's like two sides of the dark side and one side is like kind of the ego side for
Mm,
you and the other
yeah.
side is the unwanted recognition, staying safe. And the whole time I was reading that part, even though he never mentioned anyone in particular, my brain immediately went to Christina Grimmie.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, she was the girl who was on The Voice. She was
Oh, yes.
phenomenal. She was a YouTube star
Yes.
and whatever, and then very tragic story. If you know the
Yeah.
story, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He didn't mention any like specific stories, but that was where my brain immediately went. So yeah, no, for sure. I will touch on it, but I want this to be a more uplifting, positive
Mhm.
episode. So, okay, so he's got a few concepts here as far as taking your audience from that casual audience to an active audience. So, he uses like some kind of, I don't want to say trendy, but like catchy terminology, but I'll try to explain what he means by these things. So, his first chapter he calls Learn the Lyrics. But essentially, what he's saying with that is do your market research, find out what your ideal client, what words they're using, and
Mhm.
use those words when you're communicating with them.
Yes,
Speak their
yes.
language, right? We've all heard that before. That's not
Yeah.
new, but it is vital at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And it is an important, I think, an important aspect of naturally weeding out the casual viewers who are not meant to go further with you and your brand because you're not
Absolutely.
really speaking to them, right? Like, especially with me as, somebody who puts out technical tutorials and things like that on YouTube, there are going to be people who find me because they want to learn how to do a certain thing that I maybe happen to show, but that does not mean that they're my people or I'm their people,
Yeah.
right? So this is a good way to kind of weed that out. They can learn what they need from that one video and move on, right? Because I'm not speaking
Mhm.
their language, right? So I think that's a really important in this context, not just in the marketing context of speak their language so that they feel like you're talking directly to them, which is important. It's just not having that same relational aspect that I feel like he's bringing into the conversation. And I like that a
Right.
lot. So, one of the things that he recommends, and again, not this is not rocket science, we've all done this, but doing market research posts and stuff in different Facebook groups. He specifically recommends Facebook groups that are not even your Facebook group, ideally, where your ideal client lives, just
Mhm.
to get feedback and to start hearing their language, right? Hear what they're saying. And he
Speaking their own
gives,
words. Yeah.
yeah, and he gives some really good examples of like prompts so that you're not,
Okay.
because it's sometimes hard. I mean, at least for me, it's sometimes hard
Yeah.
to word a market research question correctly,
And
like
not.
to
Yeah.
get the kind of responses that you're looking for. I have found that in the past, especially in one particular group, I will post a question that I mean as a market research question. And yet somehow I get responses of people trying to teach me what I'm trying to teach them. And I'm like, whoa, wait, I think I worded that wrong. So I really appreciated the fact that he gave some like specific wording that works well for him because it just really helped me to kind of focus what I was saying. And from my own experience, I decided because at the end of each of these little chapters, which by the way, his chapters were super short. And I love that because I read a chapter a morning. That's my habit. So I was
Okay.
able to do the chapter, do the course that went along with it, and do the exercise at the end of the course if there was one. And that made it like so much more impactful for me than trying to like get back to doing the exercise later.
Yeah.
It was very helpful. So he was recommending, like, hey, pick one of these questions or, word a question based off of one of these prompts and throw it out there in a bunch of groups and see what comes back. And I did that with a question about habit building because that's something that I'm focused on right now in my business. And I posted the question in a couple of different groups, including the group that always seems to want to teach me what I'm trying to teach them.
Hmm.
And I got some really great responses, but even better than that, I immediately got an invite to be on someone's podcast about the topic that
Oh.
I was bringing up. So I was like, "Oh, hey, I guess I worded that question really well." So that was kind of cool, to get
Yes.
that kind of immediate response to what I was saying, what I was asking. So I really liked that. And maybe I'll post the link because we've already recorded it. It's already been released. So I will post the link to that episode if you want to learn more about building habits. But so that's like chapter 1 is like really just learning their language, speaking in a way that they're going to really respond to. And then he also talks about like follow-up questions because I think that's also a tricky thing with doing just like blanket
Yeah.
market research is you might get responses that are like not leading to conversation.
Hmm.
And if you don't want to take that conversation and immediately try to sell, which you shouldn't, by the way, like you want to
Hmm.
just keep the conversation going and build relationship, he's giving great follow-up questions to go along with those initial prompts, which I think is super helpful. And I really appreciated that he actually did that and
I
didn't just say
I
like, ask questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. This is what I was going to say is that we read so many of these books that give you the great ideas and the concepts, and this is why it's going to work well for you, but not any, well, this is how, no real guidance on how to do it. Just being told this is what you should do. But it sounds like in this book, it's like, this is what you should do. Let me help you do it.
Right.
Even though he's not giving you the exact words, he's giving you enough of a prompt that you can put it into your own branding and make it work for you. And obviously, like right out of the gate, obviously it worked well. And if it
Right.
worked well for you, it's going to work well for others. I love that.
Right. He also, side note, in as one of the resources that he put in that chapter, he did a Google sheet. Of course, I immediately turned it into a Trello board, but to help you track that market research.
Fantastic.
He threw, I mean, it was a super simple Google sheet and so turned into a super simple Trello board, but will probably end up in the membership because I think it's important. So that's always nice. I like having a, you know, not quite tangible, but like digitally tangible. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Did I
It's
just make up a
tangible.
word? But I mean, it's
Yeah.
not because tangible means you can touch it. I can't, you know, I can't hold it, but it's
Like
practical.
keyboard,
It's
you can
practical.
touch it.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
sure, sure.
yeah,
But I liked that because it gave me something to
yeah.
like do right away, you know?
I love that, and I'm all down for a Google Sheet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So then the next chapter is where he addresses kind of what you were talking about like, you know, do I just have to share my personal life all over social media and da da
Yeah.
da? So this is where his chapter is called Break the Ice. There's a couple of things I like jotted down where he like in concept to this. So like he said, first off, he said, be willing to share things you would share with your friends, with your audience, even if it's outside your niche. But what he doesn't say is be willing to share everything you would share with your friends, with your audience. He's saying pick like a couple of things that are you're passionate about, that you
Mhm.
care about. And I honestly, the point of this, if I'm really just to like go high level and look at this, it's to make you become known for something more
Yeah.
than just what you teach and what you offer.
Okay.
And I realized as I was reading this, I have naturally done that with my favorite color because I can't even tell you how many people send me things or tag me in something or whatever just because it's teal.
Absolutely, you have. That is so funny. And you can do that totally intentional because when you said that, I thought about how so many people are with me and wine. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, I stopped posting about it because like everyone thinks I'm an alcoholic.
You're like
But
a little wino over there. No, but I
but
mean,
yeah,
but it's true, right? It's like it's not a super personal thing, but it makes
but
them
it's
feel
enough.
like they know you and it makes them think about you. Like it triggers them to think about you in a certain situation. For him, a lot of it is like he is well known for being a huge fan of Back to the Future. And so there's like all kinds of DeLorean stuff mixed into all of his content and branding and whatever. And so he gets tagged in all kinds of things about Back to the Future and DeLoreans, and he gets sent gifts and stuff like that related to
Oh, I
that.
love it.
But it's not
That's
like
so
uber
great.
personal. It's
But that's
just
smart.
something about him, right? So
I love that.
yeah. And he talks about like finding ways to infuse your hobbies and like things that you love, not everything, but like a select few things into your content. So find a way to make it relevant. So like I was like brainstorming for myself as I was doing this and he probably told us to. That's probably why I did it. I can't remember, but so I'm a fan of Harry Potter, always have been, always will be. And so I was thinking like, okay, well, can I take my love of Harry Potter and somehow turn it into relatable to technology? I don't know. Let me think. And so I was like, you know, what if I did something that was like 10 things Harry Potter can teach you about personal development?
I love it.
I think I have not planned out that video, but I could totally see that being a video, right?
Oh, and I would watch it. Is there an
Right?
episode that we haven't talked about Harry Potter somewhere along
I
our
mean, probably, but I even on the episode of that other podcast, I kind of like loosely hinted at Harry Potter, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't help it. I can't help it. It
Yeah.
comes up.
I love that. I
Um,
think that that is so great because for someone like me who does not like to be center stage, um, so you know how I am in front of a camera. I'm very shy, but if you want to put me in front of on a stage in front of 1,000 people, I'm okay with that. But you put a camera in front of me, I feel like it's my all my personal everything is now out in the open, and
mhm,
I absolutely love that. If you're very selective about what you're putting out there
yeah,
and to get remembered by. I think that's huge because then it also it keeps you safe for one thing, which is one of the core reasons
huge.
I'm assuming,
Yeah,
but it also definitely reduces a lot of the stress and overwhelm of having to feel that pressure of constantly putting yourself out there and being so vulnerable. Now, being vulnerable is huge because saying that we love Harry Potter and putting Harry Potter out there and doing that, I can't wait for that video, by the way. I'm going to push you for it. But when you do that, it relieves a lot of that stress and a lot of that pressure to be so vulnerable. We're not going to please everybody. We actually have people who we both know and are in our network who are adamant that all things J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter are horrible. But we're still friends with them and that's okay. So they just might not be our target.
right.
And that's one of the factors. They're not gonna be a super fan if you can't connect. But
I also
somebody like
think
me.
it brings the fun into it because
Yeah.
like even though I don't know and I will work on the video, it is on my list, but it seems like it would be so much more fun to create a video about that as opposed to being
Yeah.
so serious all the time. Because I'm always like teaching things that people have to be serious and pay attention and whatever. And like being able to do it in
Yeah.
like a more whimsical kind of fun way, I think will make it more fun for me in the creation, the recording, the everything. Another idea, and this is something that like we were already talking about recently on the podcast that we are both comfortable sharing about our private lives as our fur babies, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we don't go into total depth and like we're more careful about certain names or nicknames we use because they may or may not be part of certain passwords. I mean, let's get real. But I mean, bringing our fur baby into our content in some way. So, like an idea
Yeah.
that came up in my mind, because mine is in my branding photos, because
Yeah.
for lots of reasons. One, because he's adorable. And so, who could pass by that photo and not stop and look at it? And two, because I always feel uncomfortable in photo shoots. I'm not a
Mhm.
model. That's not what I'm out there to do. But he makes me more relaxed.
Yeah.
So I bring him into it. So how do I bring him into the content though? And so I thought, well, what about 5 things your fur baby can teach you about work-life balance?
Oh, these are great.
Right?
Wow, that is
So
so great.
now
Yeah.
I just have to create the content behind these video ideas. But like the fact that like the idea of breaking the ice and bringing that part of you, that piece of you into your business and connecting it to your content, I love that. I absolutely love it.
I mean,
Um,
you're on chapter 1 and I'm already in
no,
love
this is
with this
chapter
book.
2, but you see what I'm
Oh,
saying? Like, you're
yeah.
already becoming a super fan, and you don't even know what he looks like yet. You can't even, like, remember if he's the guy from Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins' little sidekick.
Yeah,
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is
But
either,
yeah.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, just from
Yeah.
these first 2 basic and again, these are not brand new concepts. It's just the way he's incorporating them, I guess, is the best
Yeah.
word, that I love.
But I have to say that as much as you say it's not a brand new concept, in essence, it is for me because like you and teal, and you're right. I can't see anything that is teal without thinking of you.
Right.
And I every time I'm out and I see something, I'm like, how much is that going to cost to ship? Like
Too much. The answer is always too much.
too much. And the thing is that to me is a new concept. I mean, it might not be in the marketing world and it might not be in the world of branding because I'm not so deep into that industry that it might not be new there, but it is definitely a new concept to me that you just pick one small aspect of your life that you're passionate about, that you love, that you're comfortable sharing, that you're known for.
Yeah.
And within your circle, right? So within my circle of people, not online, but my circle, people know for me it's wine, it's shoes, and it's Harry Potter and books in general. Those are my loves
Yeah.
outside of so many other things. But those, anytime, what do I get for Christmas? I get, shoe phone holders. I get Harry Potter, knickknacks and all of that stuff because that's what people know that I love. And to be able to put that out there and have that be not a focus, but have that be my fun and whimsical way of saying I'm human too. And
Mm-hmm.
these are my loves without it's for me, it's that without being vulnerable because you know me, I am not a big, huge, put myself out there person. And this just I'm enamored by this concept, and to me, it
Yeah.
is new. So
Yeah.
it may be regurgitated information, but to me, I've never seen it before. So I am so appreciative that you're bringing this book up today because I am so excited now.
Yeah. This is one you should listen to. I hate to
Yeah.
say it, but it is because it's good. But it is also a quick book. Like there's a lot of content, there's a lot of meat, but it doesn't slog at all. And he's interesting, like I think he starts out the first chapter, the like intro, talking about how the concept for this book came out of his wife's love for the Backstreet Boys. And that's all I'm going to say. But that's literally how he starts the book. So he sucked me in immediately. And I don't even care about the Backstreet Boys, but just the concept of that being the inspiration of the book, loved it. And I needed to know more.
Yeah. That
Okay.
is so
So
fantastic.
I'm realizing that like if I keep going at this pace, I this is going to be a 2-hour episode for me to get through all of this. So I'm going to kind of like rush through the next couple of things and like stop on the things that I feel like have more interest or more uniqueness to them.
Okay.
So the next chapter is about creating quick wins. This is one I think most of us already know. This is the concept of like if you were doing like a free challenge or something like that and you're trying to help your audience get a little mini transformation that's related to what your big transformation, same concept. He's not saying necessarily it needs to be in like a challenge or something. It could be in your welcome email where like in your
Okay.
welcome email you include like a list of your most the podcast episodes or blog posts or whatever that are real like
Beneficial
generally
and
the
valuable.
most helpful, the most valuable, yeah, the most popular, whatever, just
Mhm.
to make something simple and easy for them to go and like kind of consume a bunch of content and get something out of it right away. Right.
Yeah.
So that's something and I can hear in your voice, like, yeah, that one you've done, that one.
Yeah.
And I think a
That's
lot of
the,
us know that
and that's
one.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The next chapter, and here's where he's breaking the ice and bringing in his hobby in. His next chapter is literally called Drive the DeLorean.
Yeah.
So he has created his own like in-person events. He calls them FlynnCon, which I think is adorable. You can just tell that he's like one of those cute dork kind of guys, but like doesn't take himself too seriously, which I think is fantastic. He also has as one of his speakers and the little video that comes along in the companion course is with him, Stu McLaren, who I know you
Oh.
know, who is a master of creating memberships and
Mhm.
that kind of community. And so he talks about that and basically like it's about telling stories. It's kind of vision casting in a way. It's about telling stories of the transformations that you've helped people get.
Yeah. Okay.
And so and knowing how to tell those stories in an engaging kind of way.
Hmm.
So that was the next one. But then the next little chapter I'm going to stop on for a minute because this one I find very important. He calls it return every handshake. What he means is at least for I mean at a certain point this might become impossible if you grow to a huge level. But his point is every single time somebody in your audience makes an effort to connect with you, always return that effort.
Hmm.
If somebody replies to your email, even if it's an automated email you sent out where you're like just trying to get them to reply for the algorithm's sake or whatever, if they reply, reply back.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I think that's amazing. And I
Yeah.
think even if you become huge and you have an email list of 500,000, you're not going to get 500,000 responses.
No,
And
no.
even if you are responding on a Thursday and there's a lot, even if you're slow to respond, respond.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me,
I
a lot
agree
of
with
that
that.
is like YouTube comments. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard because sometimes I'll get a YouTube comment that like there's nothing to respond to,
Yeah.
or they'll just be like, thanks, and I'm like, there's nothing to respond to, but that's a
Welcome.
handshake, right? And so like finding a
Yeah.
way to respond to it beyond just hearting their comment, it
Yeah.
makes a difference because it makes that person feel special that you actually saw them, right?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be fake, you did see them, so you're responding because you saw them. And it actually,
Mhm.
this made me, I have a folder because I am, surprise surprise, someone who like creates a bunch of folders in my email so that I can organize them. And I've had a folder called client conversations that I
Hmm.
typically use to filter that concept, right? When somebody responds to an email and I respond back or whatever. And I have since renamed it handshakes because
Oh,
I want it to be a reminder to me of like why I'm responding to that.
yeah. I
So
like that.
yeah, I kind of love that. So that's like how he wraps up the casual to active audience, like just getting people to the point where they feel like they know you, they're, not necessarily ready to buy from you, but like they are starting to believe in you. They start to trust you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's that feels like a little bit easier transformation to take someone to, right? Like we can often do that accidentally just by putting out a good lead magnet, you know,
Hmm.
that we take somebody to the next level of having opted into our newsletter and they stick around on our newsletter. We didn't even actively do anything for that. So having a good, solid welcome email series is important here because you may not even be aware of the fact that you're doing this if you've written that stuff correctly and you've written it in their language and you've infused your personality and all of that, right? So to me, I feel like this level can be almost passive if you put a lot of intention to how you set it up to begin with. The next part, though, gets a little bit more complex, and I'm gonna kind of rush through this because there's a lot of them, and I'm gonna recommend that you either read the book yourself or, like, if you're really interested in this and you want us to talk about it more, comment on this episode and tell us that, and then we'll do, like, a secondary episode about it because there's so much I can dive into on this, but I mean, there's 4 parts to this book, and I'm just starting part 2. So, I can't go that detailed into it, but basically the next part of it is and I'm not gonna go chapter by chapter, but it's getting them involved. It's finding ways to get them involved. Let them have input. Let them give
Hmm.
feedback. A lot of times we put out requests for feedback, but we're doing it for our own benefit. But look at
Right.
it from their side as well. So it's not just about getting information we need to be able to create the best course or, whatever it might be, but like also giving them a chance to kind of feel a sense of ownership in it and feel
Mm.
like they have influence over what you put out next, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
So because of this, I created like a Google form at the end of all of my courses in the membership that like the last step of the membership is for them to just answer a few questions, give me a little feedback on the course. So
So
that maybe the next course that comes out was inspired by what they said, right? Were you going to say something?
I was, but I lost my train of thought because you start talking. Google Forms got me going. No, that's okay. But see, does he again give you a little bit of prompts on this? So it's very hard to come up with the wording when you're trying to make it from their perspective. Yes, we're using their language. Yes, we're doing this to ensure that we're giving them what they need, what they desire, and what they are looking for from us.
Mhm.
But does he give you any assistance like he did prior
Yes.
on the wording on how to do that?
He does, he does. And so, like,
Yeah.
one of the early examples in this is really, like, just to a point of, like, letting them give their opinions. It's kind of, in a way, creating engagement posts kinda thing.
Right. Yeah.
So, he gave a couple of examples that are more generic, and then you'd, of course, have to make them make sense in your niche, but, like, an example is one of, like, which is healthier, kale or spinach, was an example he gave. Well, for
Okay.
me, I would translate that maybe to which one is better, Trello or Asana?
Right.
Like, it's clear what I think if you have paid any attention whatsoever, but, like, that doesn't mean, like, I also make it clear that it's not one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
And so if you say Asana, and I have friends who I know would say that, okay, why? Why do you love it so much? Right?
Open the
And give them a
conversation.
chance to, right, give them a chance to talk about why they love it so much and let them be involved in that conversation. It's not all about me saying what I love and what I think and everybody just has to agree with me, right?
Yeah.
And then that leads them into feeling comfortable to make decisions when it comes to, like, doing market research posts about, hey, what I'm planning the next 6 months of courses in my membership. What would you most want to learn? And then
Hmm.
give them options, right? It's typical market research, but looking at it from the perspective of letting them have some influence versus I need ideas, so give them to me,
Yeah.
right? Like, reframing our, I guess, our mindset around market research, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's so great.
he talks a lot about, like, going behind the scenes. He calls it opening the factory doors, but, like, showing people behind the scenes a little bit, let them feel, more connected, involved in what you're doing. Stage a gig, basically create an event, whether it's an in-person or a virtual or whatever, create something for them to attend and get to know you. He talks about give them a name, and this is something that you and I struggled with so much.
Yes.
We already
Yeah.
wanted to do this for the podcast because we're both crime junkies and we are proud freaking of it.
Yeah.
But, like, coming up with something that made sense for success through community was not an easy task. And honestly, I'm not even sure that what we came up with is something you guys, like, relate to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you hate when we call you successfuls, please tell us because we honestly, that was the best idea we came up with. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's a good one. So yeah, we're open
Open.
to suggestions. We are open to
Yeah.
suggestions. And then, like, also giving
Love
them
that.
opportunities to shine and, like, show what their knowledge and their experience and maybe it's like if you're a business coach of some kind, featuring their business because they've taken your advice and whatever and built something amazing, right?
Yeah.
And, like, not to teach it just to say, like, hey, look what I helped them do, but just spotlight them, feature them,
Yeah.
right? And that I love that because who doesn't want to be able to showcase and talk about their achievements and what they've been able to do and create.
That that feels very much like a Stu McLaren
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
concept, and it's one that I love, and I think it's very, very powerful and very impactful on both your business and on your clients, regardless of what your niche is and what you do. It is very, very, very powerful and impactful on both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And now I have to speed through part 3 because seriously, there's too much. But high level, he's basically saying, pay attention when your audience talks to you. Remember things about them, especially
Mhm.
when they are at a level where they're already, like, because this is like taking from connected to super fan. So you're not going to
Mhm.
have a ton of people in this category. So when you learn something about these people, remember it for next time. Like, be a good friend, basically, is
Mhm.
all he's saying here. Is, like, recognize that these people matter and the things that they like matter. And then be able to bring it up and talk to them and show them that you remember them and that you're not so big-headed that they should know everything about you, but you don't know anything about them, essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, I like
Um,
that a lot.
I do too. Send unexpected messages, meaning, like, nice little Like, one of the things he does is, like, these little personalized videos, which I've been playing around with based off his suggestions. So far, it's like a mixed bag for me, but I like the concept of it, of, like, not everything being form lettery, especially at that level. Like, they should get some
Yeah.
personalized attention. Get them involved, let them be part of things, and he took it to the level of somebody that reached super fandom with him ended up becoming like a volunteer moderator of his Facebook group, ended up becoming an employee, right? That's not going to be
Right.
right for everyone, but like those are places to look, and we've talked about this recently about how do you when you're ready to hire someone for something, how do you know you're finding the right person for the right job? And I think
Hmm.
he's making a good point. Look at your super fans, because you
Yeah.
know that they've already shown you that they share your values, which is a huge part of it, and like kind of take it from there. So I kind of love
Right.
that. And then like offer like special things to these people, platinum access, he calls it, or like VIP experience at an event, or,
Hmm.
something like that, which I love. And you can dive so much deeper in all of it if you like go get the book or listen to the book. And then just to touch on the dark side stuff, he talks about the hidden traps of building super fans and of course how to avoid them as well. And a lot of it he's talking about like your ego to start with, like don't become that guy, that girl that thinks that you're so special because you've got super fans. Like stay human,
Mm.
stay a
Yeah.
person and treat these people with the same level of respect that they deserve and that sort of thing. So yeah, I really liked that. And then the last part was about staying safe, and he was talking about how he had shared an image of something. It wasn't nothing in the image was like giving away location, but he didn't know that because it had been taken on his phone or something, it had like geolocation embedded in it or something. And so one of his super fans alerted him so that he could delete it and protect himself. But like getting a PO box and not putting your personal address out there, and
Yeah.
in some cases you have to have a physical address, like you can't use a PO box for certain things. So he suggested looking into like WeWork places that have
Yep.
mailbox services and that you can use their physical address for things. So
Yep.
that was really smart. So just a lot of things like that, and like don't, he was talking about, I guess for a while he was sharing like detailed income reports because as he teaches on passive income, he felt like that was important to like be transparent, but like how safe is that? And how can you do that in a
Yeah.
way that you don't accidentally expose something that you don't want to? And for me doing like YouTube tutorials, I always try to create a fake board for things so
Yeah.
that I'm never showing my personal
Yeah.
stuff out there, because you never know what somebody could like see and use that you didn't even realize was too personal. So
100%.
yeah, so there's a lot of that. He didn't go into a whole lot of details or anything like that, but it absolutely got me thinking about Christina Grimmie. And just, I mean, she
Yeah.
couldn't hide her location because it was a live concert,
Concert.
so like of course people are going to know when and where she's there, but it's just finding ways to protect yourself as much as possible. And if your whole business is online, there's no reason for you to share that kind of information. So if you
Absolutely.
if you go somewhere, share pictures after you've already left that place, not while you're
Yeah.
still there. And things like that, a little bit common sensey, but you know important to note
I
anyway.
think I think people take too much for granted.
Mm,
And that's the issue. And we put ourselves at too much of a risk. I live with a cybersecurity guy.
yeah.
And let me tell you, I am constantly being ripped a new one because I did something that I thought was harmless. So, and you see it all the time, especially on social media, where people are doing it for their business because those posts, what's the first thing you put down on the table when you walk in the door, or guess the color
Mm,
of my bra, or things like that. Um, they go viral and they get a lot of engagement, and that's what people want on social media. They want that engagement. They want people talking and answering and responding. But you're putting yourself at a risk when you say, yeah, the keys to my car and my house are literally right beside the window on my door.
Right.
And then
That is not something the public needs to know.
exactly. So it's one of those things where people don't realize just how scary it is. And it sounds like what Pat did was just so innocent. Just his photo
Totally.
was geotagged.
Yeah.
Holy cow. I mean, for me to see that, like, that's a setup on your phone, obviously. My husband taught me that. But
But it's also on
see
some
that,
social media platforms. And the thing
yes,
is, they change the settings without telling you.
telling you, yeah. And if it's showing it just all of a sudden, hey, I'm right here at this place without notifying you. So that could have happened. Or this super fan that reached out to him and said, hey, I can tell that you're at New York Fries in Brooklyn. Did they do the digging to find the geotag? And then that in itself is kind of scary. Or did it just show up? You know what
He
I mean?
didn't say, but it was something about like, and it was actually his home,
Oh
which is even
gosh.
worse. I know. I don't remember if he said how the person figured it out, but it was like he thought he was being careful in the way he was taking the photo and that, oh, no, no, no. I remember what it was. He was saying that he was like sharing some personal stuff and talking about how he was running more. And he literally posted from his run, like the route map.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
a
so
little
it wasn't like
dangerous.
a digging thing, but he just wasn't thinking about the fact that
Yeah.
people were going to look at that and realize they know where he lives, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So it was something like that where it's like totally innocent. So many people could make that kind of mistake,
yeah. You
but
tend to
it,
love
you know,
your audiences, right? You tend to trust
yeah,
them as much as they trust you, and you want to be a part of their world as much as they want to be a part of yours. And yeah, it's very risky.
yeah,
There are TikToks, and I've seen these where people will take a picture and be like, "Hey, so and so, where am I?" And they're in a hotel room. And this TikToker will be able to say, you are in Los Angeles, California, this hotel, and I can even tell that you're on this floor, probably in this or that room, simply based on a picture.
terrifying,
Like it's
terrifying.
not hard because
Mm-mm.
and these guys that do that, they show on their video how they did it. They're like,
Right.
look, I can see the corner of the headboard is blue. So therefore, I'm going to start looking for hotel rooms that have blue
Blue
headboards. Well,
headboards.
that
Yeah.
narrows
It's
it
not
down. And
rocket science. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is scary. It is so scary. So yeah,
Yeah.
take that with a grain of salt, folks.
Right. Which is why I said it at the beginning and I'm saying it at the end. Always
Yeah.
protect yourself, especially with technology, most especially with social media. I just discovered today, this is not a safety thing necessarily, but like Facebook just added a feature where AI will like summarize your comments on your posts unless you go in and turn it off. And it just like appeared,
Just does it. Yeah.
and they can do the same kind of thing with privacy and location stuff and not warn you. And if you don't know about it, so you kind of have to check those things regularly to see like, is Facebook sharing my information and I didn't realize? Because they could. And it's, not saying it to like be scary or, whatever, but it's just the reality we live in. You got to protect yourself. Be careful.
Exactly. And your casual fans, I would think, are not going to be, too concerned about it. Neither are
No.
your active or connected. But your super fans, that's when you start getting to a level of extreme of they love you. They're the Apple fans, right? They love you. They'll
Mm-hmm.
buy from you regardless. They want to hear from you. Those are the baby reindeers right there. Those are the ones that are going to come out and start to get a little scary. So
Yeah.
yeah, I want and love the idea of having a super fan, but just be careful
Be
about it.
careful.
I love this book.
Yeah.
I've already, while we've been talking, I actually already went and used one of my hoarding
Audible
credits
credits.
on
Yeah.
Audible.
Yep. And I
Taking
already
advantage.
used one of my credits for another one of his books for next season because it's good stuff.
It's good stuff.
If you guys want to connect with us on social media, Jolene, do you want to tell them how they can do that?
Sure. You can follow us on Instagram at Success Through Community or join our free or paid communities over at Patreon, which is patreon.com/STC Productions.
The best way that you can support the podcast is to make sure that you are subscribed wherever you're listening and leave us a review. That's the only way that new people will find and join our community. The Success Through Community podcast is hosted by Kelly Gable and Jolene Mills, and all episodes are solely the opinions of the respective host. Our sound production and editing is done by Kelly Gable, and all visual creative, including our logo, was created by Jolene Mills. The Success Through Community podcast is an STC production.